In the aftermath of the Endsars protest, the Management of Corporate Accountability and Public Participation, Africa Cappa, on Thursday, October 21, 2020, unveiled a book titled Lies and the Hail of Bullets. The book reveals heinous acts of the Nigerian government on Nigerians at last year's Endsars protest, where the government was accused of taking up arms against its citizens, thereby killing dozens of Nigerian youths. In a bid to change the narrative, the Nigerian government has tried both locally and internationally to debunk all allegations.
The movement was aimed at speaking out against the brutality perpetrated by units of the Nigerian police, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS.
Akimbode Oluwafemi, Executive Director, Cappa, gave his opening remarks on government's attitude towards the Endsars protest. He said the government we have is an irresponsible government.
What we see every day is that the notorious SARS, as we know it, has been profiling people. And let me tell you, sometimes the youths think that it's only they themselves. I have been stopped to provide receipts of my laptop. And I just laughed. And I said, well, it doesn't have a receipt. Because frankly, I bought it from a store outside Nigeria. You don't get receipts for buying even a car. So I said, well, I don't have a receipt. And the protest lasted for several days, and rather than yielding to the 5-to-5 demands of the youths, by October 20, soldiers and policemen descended on Lekki. And as they say, the story it's just unfolding up until yesterday. And we, like several other Nigerians, think that the protesters were unjustly and inhumanly targeted. The stories from the Nigerian government kept us changing by the day. We've moved from, the soldiers did not go to Lekki, to who authorized them to go to Lekki. Oh, we didn't shoot bullets. Oh, it was rubber bullets. Oh, one person died. No, nobody died. And so what we have tried to do, and we have done, is for this multitude of narratives that government and its proxies are pushing out. We want to document as much as possible the narrative of the youths that survived the shooting in Lekki. And we are trying to do that for posterity's sake. You know, let me be very clear. Endsars is not going to die. And the people that got injured or wounded, their contribution to the new Nigerian Vardim will not be in vain. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. And from the testimonies we've listened to, because we want to make this very quick, because we are going to do a 30 minutes of the video, there are still questions that they have been trying to evade or not answer correctly. Who actually invited the army to Lekki? Now, every story we've listened to, even at the panel, pointed to a senior military man that came to stop them. Why is the government hiding this military man that seems to have the most accurate information on their side? Now, they don't want us to know. Why are hospitals forbidden from releasing bullets that they extracted? In fact, once they extract the bullets, it disappears. In fact, you that is the bullet victim, you no longer have authority to it. Now, why is the desperate, orchestrated cover-up by government and its agents against unveiling the truth about what happened in Lekki? To the extent that they are so intolerant of even a memorial of that shooting. And as far as I'm concerned, the event of yesterday now becomes a gory affirmation that this government has not learned any lesson. But the Nigerian youths, they have spoken, and the government will listen. Enough is enough. There must be an end to police brutality in Nigeria. What the youths are asking for is a just and accountable government and an accountable system, be you police or the army. There is no democracy without dissent. In fact, those that are in places of power today were the people that were, organizing protests and dissenting yesterday. And so every attempt by this government to erode our basic right to dissent and basic freedoms will fail. For the police, it is unfortunate that they have continued to act like a regime protection force and an elite protection force. And so, today we are joining the call for justice for all SARS victims. And they are there everywhere. But the government is also using a narrative that we must not fall into. They will say we are looking for justice for SARS victims, but they are not even talking about justice for protest of Endsars, the victims of Endsars protests. So specifically today, we want to reject that narrative that is talking about justice for SARS victims and not justice for protests of Endsars. Because there wouldn't have been Endsars protests in the first place if there was no problem created by SARS. And so, while they are talking about Endsars victims, SARS victims, they are not talking of victims of Endsars. And so justice must be done to all the victims of Endsars, victims of that shooting in Lekki. And most importantly, that driver, Uber driver, that was brutally assaulted yesterday. He was dehumanized, beaten, and in case you don't know, this guy was actually pepper sprayed at very close range. They sprayed pepper spray into his eyes. Only God knows whether that guy's eyes will survive. We are talking about police brutality. And again, look at the gory scene they created, they gave to us yesterday. And I don't want to speak too much, but I will not respond to our elder, Lai Mohammed. He's already old and should go home. And so he's seeing this, and he's in another world. He's one of those analog people who cannot relate with the digital age. So it's a waste of time. But my concern was that I watched live the commissioner of police yesterday, and every statement he made on the ground at Lekki Toll Gate yesterday shows that we're actually in trouble. Our commissioner said you cannot protest except you have T-shirts or you have handband or except you have leaders. My brother, where did you read that in the Constitution? I can decide to go out and protest anything. That is my constitutional right. I don't need anybody to organize me. I don't need any leader to take me there. If I disagree with anything, it is my constitutional right as a Nigerian to do that within any space or the territory called the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He even said that the people that they arrested, what were they doing in Lekki Toll Gate? After all, Lekki Toll Gate is not a marketplace.
It's a private property.
Come on. So this is where we are as Nigerians. That the people that came out, leading other people like us, that we must end police brutality in Nigeria, they are very, very right. Because the current police, their psyche, their thinking, they were saying, kill him, pepper him. Policemen that are supposed to protect Nigerian citizens are saying that on live camera. You could then imagine what happened within their stations. This is Federal Republic of Nigeria, not Animal Republic of somewhere. And this is why we are saying no. And so, we call for the release of all the protesters that were arrested yesterday and are languishing in the various police cells across the country. We join Nigerian youth to call for accountability and good governance because we believe that a new Nigeria will emerge from the ashes of the Endsars to a nation of freedom, dignity, and human rights. Thank you very much.
Achike Chidi of the Joint Action Front and Soweto Hazan of the Youth Rights Campaign also gave their contributions to the matter.
And they will forever live in our heart. And I want to say a big thank you also to all Nigerians that came out yesterday, people who gave their support for holding on the narrative that this really truly happened, and for good 1 year we were able to keep the momentum going. I want to say a big thank you to every one of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think it was Chino Achebe that said that the story of the haunting, if it is not told by those that are haunted, it is always going to be the haunter that tells the story. Of course, with this, it has often been said that the dominant narrative is usually the narrative of the ruling class. And what this book has done, this documentary has done, is to put the situation in its real perspective. Otherwise, we might go out with a completely false narrative about our state of affairs. You know, and when you watch this film, this documentary, I had to leave because I didn't want to continue watching. Because when a government takes it upon itself to prey on its own citizens, you cannot call it a government. And it is from that perspective that we understand the statement of Kalmeya, who said that Nigeria is a criminally run corporation where the leaders are armed and are hidden in the vault, in the safe. He didn't say Nigeria is a country. He said it is a corporation. So what it tells you is that rather than a political expression, it is a business expression where presidents and governors and ministers and commissioners are either CEOs, COOs, or senior or middle management officers in a business empire. And so what you saw at at the Lekki toll gate were the businessmen protecting their business empire. That's what's going on, and you and I mean absolutely nothing to them.
Of course.
It's not a surprise. Why would it be a surprise? I think, but it was a wake-up call for the youths. They did well. For some of us who have been vilifying them all these years, accusing them of irresponsibility, that even made the president describe them as lazy youths. When these lazy youths woke up one day and confounded and astounded every single person in this country, that they have known all along what is going on with this country. But what they did not know was the viciousness of the state. They did not understand how evil the state is or could be. And we saw that manifest that day in September 2020. October 2020. I want to thank Cappa for telling us the truth about what happened on that day and in the period leading to it. But most importantly, this title, Lies and the Hail of Bullets, is most appropriate. And of course we know, lastly, we are not surprised that a tribunal was set up. But that tribunal came up with something Menta had already told us was going to happen. And does happen. And that is that they have the capacity to turn blue to red, to turn green to brown. And this is what they have done. But Cappa And the groups that make up, that work with Cappa have gotten up and they say, no, this is exactly what happened. One day, we should remember what happened in Bolivia. The president of Bolivia has been sentenced to prison. In fact, she tried to commit suicide in prison because under her watch, the military of Bolivia shot dead 12 citizens in one day. So, like they say, no condition is permanent. The only thing that is permanent in life, according to Heraclitus, is change. Change will come. And those people who have done these horrible things, hopefully one day posterity will bring them to justice. Sorry, I spoke for too long. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The survivors of the October 2020 carnage, I salute you all. On behalf of the Youth Right Campaign, I want to salute Cappa for producing this document. I completely agree with Comrade Chike that this document helps us to capture the truth of what has happened, so that no matter how much the government continues to lie, this becomes an historical evidence. And this means that one day, when the working people and the youth of this country are able to take over the governance of this country, don't be surprised that this book, as a documentation, as an historical evidence, will become the basis for the trial of people who are responsible for this, whether they are alive at that time or not. And I'm saying this because that is what history is all about. We are never going to forget what has happened last year. The same way we have not forgotten how previous government also destroyed people's homes and killed people in Odi, in Zakibia, and in different parts of the country. This kind of repression has been long in coming. The Nigerian state, the capitalist state that is prepared to defend its rule by killing its people. And that is why, for those of us who are here today, we must take what happened on October 2020 as a lesson going forward. We must never, at any point in time, decide to face the state without a clear program and without a clear idea. And we must also ensure that in the coming period, we organize our struggle in such a way that we are able to confront the state. Because when you watch the video, it is a little bit disconcerting that all the youth had at that period was the idea that by waving their flag and by singing the national anthem, the Nigerian state would not kill them. And that shows that for the youth, they actually believed in Nigeria more than the rulers of this country. Because they thought that by singing the national anthem, anybody ought to recognize that those who they are confronting are patriots, are citizens who are not to be treated in that manner. But I think that that lesson has been ingrained in our memory today. To be able to defeat oppression, we need to organize ourselves politically. But also, if necessary, we also can arm the revolution for the purpose of ensuring that we take over our country. Because ultimately, that is what we need. Today, the youth are even in a far bigger problem. The unemployment rate in Nigeria today is about 33.1%. But the youth unemployment rate is over 50%, about 53.something%. That shows that the youth are actually taking the bigger brunt of the crisis of Nigeria. And that is why the youth are going to become an important part of any struggle we are going to wage in future to take over this country. So I want to leave you once again with the salutation of the Youth Right Campaign. And also enjoy Cappa. You need to follow up this. You need to follow up this documentation with the process of actually putting together an independent panel of inquiry. At a previous program that Cappa had, I raised this. But we can say we should give ourselves a few days and a few weeks to see what will be the outcome of that judicial panel. But I can tell you today that a killer government can never investigate itself and bring out the truth of what happened. In fact, if they bring out any truth, it will be to just put together some people who are not even directly responsible for the purpose of using them as scapegoats, while the real killers continue as they were. And that is why if you get to that stage, I'm pleading with Cappa to them, appealing to you, with all your resources, we must see how we can put together, alongside with Joint Action Front, the trade union of the youth group, an independent panel of inquiry, which can sit to do the appropriate investigation and name the names of those who are responsible. Whether or not anything will happen after that, struggle is what will determine it. And Luther continua.
Victims of last year's Endsars protest were present to give account of their ordeal at the October 20, 2020 Lekki massacre. A short documentary was played in view of evidence gathered from victims of the Endsars protest.
On the 20th of October 2020, the world watched in utter shock as the Nigerian military descended on peaceful Endsars protesters in the Lekki area of Lagos. In the attempt to stop the protest, soldiers shot some people dead and wounded many others. In December 2017, an online advocacy, #Endsars, was birthed. The brainchild of lawyer and human rights activist, Shebra Awosanya. The movement was aimed at speaking out against the brutality perpetrated by units of the Nigerian police, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS.
The reason why I joined the protest was that I mostly work at nights, going to events. So we usually walk through around the island around 2 a.m., 3, 4, 5. So there are some times at some points where police they usually stop us to tax us that we must settle them. If we don't settle them, they will have case against us. So we always try to settle them out with some money. I had to come out that there must be a stop to the police brutality.
I joined the Endsars protest on the 11th this Sunday, 2020. The reason why was for good governance and police reform and the Endsars and other things.
The system generally is faulty, and we cannot continue to struggle, and smiling at the same time. So I got motivated seeing youths like me, Nigerians, brave Nigerians like me, coming out to say we want an end to brutality, police brutality, Endsars. We want a government that is accountable. We want transparency in the affairs that governs our society generally, and that was what we were agitating for.
The officers of the now defunct Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, were involved in profiling of young Nigerians, mounting illegal roadblocks where they conducted unwarranted checks, arbitrary arrests, detention of suspects without trial, rape of women, and a host of other inhuman treatments. Most of the victims of the abuses by operatives of SARS were young Nigerians. Many victims laid complaints amidst public outcry. Yet, nothing was done to address the abuses. Though the government made several unkept promises.
Only the first step in our commitment to extensive police reform in order to ensure that the primary duty of the police and other law enforcement agencies remains the protection of lives and livelihoods of our people.
The authorities failed to put checks on these dreaded police units. The world watched with dismay as it became a crime for young Nigerians to be successful and own flashy cars. Youths got arrested and some were shot for mere excuses like wearing a dreadlock or having tattoos on their bodies. Youths lived in constant fear of the men of SARS, as no one knew who was next. Then people began to say, enough is enough, as Nigerians could no longer live in fear in their own country. Early in October 2020, youths speaking out against these forms of brutality took another dimension. The opposition to SARS moved away from just online advocacy to protest on the streets. After several videos showing brutality of police made it to social media platforms. Nationwide protests calling for the disbandment of the unit and an end to all forms of police brutality, extortion and harassment in Nigeria began on the 8th of October 2020. Mass demonstrations continued across the country, receiving support from those in the diaspora and celebrities.
We do not want SARS anymore. This is a peaceful protest. The police are meant to protect life and property. The police are meant to defend the citizens of this country, not kill its citizens.
The demand has, as its core, end SARS, end police brutality. The protesters were determined in their resolve to see that their protest yielded the desired results, and soon it became a movement. For the protesters, standing down was not an option. Several attempts were made by strong forces to stop the demonstrations and get the youths off the streets, but to no avail. It was just like any other day. A day to protest, raise awareness, and call for justice for victims of police brutality. A bright day filled with endless opportunities, and another day for the protesters to demand accountability from the government. It was the morning of the 20th of October 2020, and the protests continued across the country. Gathering momentum at the Lekki toll gate, Lagos. As part of measures to end the protests, the Lagos state government announced imposition of a 24-hour curfew on the state with effect from 4 p.m. This was further extended to 9 p.m. to enable residents stuck in traffic to get to their destinations. But the protesters remained resolute at the Lekki Toll Plaza. The day began to wind up, and at about 6:45 p.m., the lights went out. And chaos descended in full force on the protest ground. Soldiers, on the pretense of enforcing the curfew, stormed the plaza under the cover of darkness. Gunshots, flying bullets, confusion, disarray. Hell was let loose as soldiers deployed to the protest grounds allegedly shot at the peaceful protesters. But what really happened that fateful night, where a peaceful ground for demonstration turned into a killing field? Who can tell this story better than those who were at the protest ground on that Black Tuesday, the 20th of October, 2020?
I was at that Gede side. There's a place called Gede and that Lekki toll gate side there. So we had a barricade there that we used in blocking the road. So I was standing by the barricade when I saw people, running. When I turned, I see people running now. But the next thing I just heard gunshot. And when I heard gunshot now, and now there is a barricade in my front there. Then I now dragged the barricade close to myself in order for me to have a shade. Because the shooting was just periodically, non-stop shooting. It's just like as one will fetch stone from ground and then pour it on the zinc. And the way you hear the sound, that was how bullet was just splitting. So they will shoot up and shoot down. Shoot up and shoot down. So for like 15 meters away from me, I saw these two soldiers dressed with camouflage like men of war. So among the two, one of them was the one that shot me. So as I dragged the barricade close to myself, then the next thing, my blood just split on the barricade. And I noticed, and I knew that I've been hit by a bullet. They said they did not kill anybody, that there no casualty. See, let me pull my shirt so that you see. He said he used rubber bullet. This is where they shot me. So you can see the hole there. They shot me on the right hand side of my chest. Okay. And they said no casualty. My sitting down here is just the grace of God upon my life. It's just like dead bodies were lying down, saying that there is no. This is where they fix the foreign body in my body. You see, he said rubber bullet. Will rubber bullet penetrate somebody like that? And I was even hearing people shouting, yelling that very day. So people were falling down. Those ones that were falling down that I saw, I was like, maybe one man might misstep and fall down. But not knowing that it was bullet that was even bringing them down. You see? And with what the soldiers were saying, they said, they did not shoot live bullet, that they were shooting blank bullet, rubber bullet.
At about 6:45 thereabout, someone came to the stage to tell us, oh, it's like the armies are on their way, because we started hearing, gunshot from afar. And I turned back from the stage, and the person said, the armies are here, and they want to turn back. We started hearing the gunshot from that Sandfield junction. And it was loud, it was alarming, and looking from the stage, I could see from afar, because I was standing on something that is very high. And I saw guys at first pushing the barricade to want to prevent them from coming towards our direction.
So we saw people running from that direction to the stage. So I and some few individuals and some protesters, we went to see what was chasing them towards our direction.
When the troops now trooped into the Lekki Toge, they started shooting. They started shooting from the Lekki Sanfi traffic lights. That is where they started shooting, because that was where they drove. They were shooting. They were like one group, like 4 in the front. Another, they were like walking in a group. The first group was shooting on the air. Then while the other group was moving by their back, while the 3 healers and one other white healers. The 3 healers was military healers, and a white healers was with them. It was just accompanying them by their back, following them towards Lekki Tollgate. And they got to where they normally collect money at that tollgate there. That was where the army then stand. When the army now came close to us, they were like, the barricade was demarcating us. It was just the barricade that was demarcating the army and the protesters. They were shooting into the protesters, the crowd of the protesters. They were shooting live and they were shooting on air. They shoot live and they shoot on air, because it was not only one army. Some were shooting live, direct, straight bullet, while some were shooting on air.
They ambushed us. We are ambushed like a war, like we're in a war zone. When all the soldiers ambushed us, we can't go out. We are all at a spot. So I guess their mission is take everybody out one after the other. So they were shooting us direct. These are the straight bullets. The bullets were coming. I saw people dropping. I saw blood flowing. Someone beside me was shot. I was seeing it. So when the soldiers came in, they will ask us, go. We will get up. A lot of the guys will get up to move. The next minute, we'll see the same guys they asked to leave, drop dead. They will still raise their voice, make on that they go. The minute you get up, they will bring the person down. So out of fear, when they say get up, nobody refuses now, everybody refuses. Shebi will get up, you will kill her. So what is the essence of getting up and being killed? So let us remain there.
However, there was a clarion call that Nigerian youth should take it up on themselves to insist that a positive change takes place in Nigeria.